welcome or welcome back to my channel if you're new here. Today's video is a little bit different to what I normally put out. There are no plants in today's video other than the one you can see here. I'm not doing anything with plants today. Today I am talking and I am drinking tea. It is a chatty video. If you're not familiar with my account, my name's Amy, and usually I post about plants. I share some knowledge that I have. I kind of share how I look after them. If you're interested in plants, subscribe. If you're not, and you're here for the topic of this video, welcome. There will be more about ADHD, so maybe subscribe if you're interested in hearing more from me about ADHD. But yeah, so this video is about the fact that just over a week ago I was diagnosed with ADHD, and if you follow me on Instagram or you're somebody that I speak to in real life, then you'll know this already. If you're not any of those people in your part of my YouTube community, sorry, I'm just telling you. I wanted to specifically wait for this video to talk about it a little bit. I'm not going to talk about it loads today because it still feels quite new, and organising my thoughts on the spot about this subject is still quite difficult. I have written a blog about it, so I'll have that linked below, where I imagine I imagine the kind of information is going to be a little bit more, what's the word, it's going to flow a little bit better than it will in this video, because I'm not scripted. This video is just thought to mouth process. So yeah, welcome if you're new, welcome back if you're not. Thank you for being here. So let's get on with the conversation. So I was diagnosed with ADHD on the 28th of November by my psychiatrist. I've always felt like something's been wrong or different about me. I've got really clear memories of being in primary school, 5 or 6 years old, and being angry at myself for not understanding a task that we were doing, and everyone around me just understood it. And I remember feeling why don't I get it? Why am I different? Why is everyone else finding this really easy and I'm not? And teachers would give instructions and I would listen. I would listen. As soon as we had to go and follow through on those instructions, they'd be gone. I could not remember what was instructed. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't I suppose the stereotype that's out there, and the stereotype that I had in my head until earlier in this year of ADHD, is the naughty boy, usually the naughty white boy in the classroom, kind of bouncing from one thing to another, distracting all the other students in the class, answering back, always getting in trouble, always doing things that he shouldn't be doing, being sent out of class. That was the stereotype I had of what ADHD meant until earlier this year. And that's not what it looks like for a lot of girls or non-binary people, and for some boys too. It just doesn't look like that. It presents differently in different people, and oh my god, I hope we are on the cusp of change for health professionals and teachers in knowing that ADHD looks different for so many people, because if somebody had known how else it can present in girls, I might not have had to struggle throughout my whole life because of it. Like, I wasn't that naughty kid in class. I was terrified of getting in trouble, which I now know is likely to be linked to something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which a lot of people with ADHD experience and struggle with. I was terrified of getting in trouble. Like, if for some reason the whole class had been like a bit disruptive and like the whole class would get told off, I'd be holding back tears because I hated being told off. I avoided all confrontation. I was good, and I was probably more than good. I have memories of, you know, going into teachers' classrooms at break time to help them out. I was the kid that was, you know, sharpening all the pencils. I did everything to be seen as good and capable and liked. I really wanted to be liked, and like, it's the same kind of in other areas of my childhood. I really quickly figured out that I could be too much. You know, if I got excited, or if I got like overly upset, my emotions were a lot for people to handle around me. And I remember being told, you know, that's enough, you need to calm down, you need to stop, like you're being too excitable, like all that kind of stuff. And I quickly learned to amend the way I felt inside and how it presented on the outside. And I know now that that's masking. I acted how I thought other people wanted me to act, and I've done that every day of my life since I kind of gained that awareness, I guess. I've always felt like I've been acting, like there have been times in my life where I've said I should have been an actress, like I'm a great actor. Nobody knows how I'm really feeling, or what I'm really thinking. And there have been times when that's been really useful in my life, and there have been times when it's probably been detrimental to my own mental health. Yeah, I've masked. And if you've known me in real life, I suppose part of masking for me is, like, I've got pockets of friends from different areas of my life, and I'm quite different with all of them. I fit to the people around me. And it's hard to realise, because who am I? Like, I like my own company, I enjoy being on my own, but who am I when I'm with people? I'm different all the time. Like, and I guess part of having this diagnosis confirmed is going to be exploring. It's going to be about exploring who I am, without masking, which is a bit scary. Like, masking has helped me fit in. It has got me to where I am today. But I want to know who I am, and I want to know what it's like to live authentically. So we'll see. Obviously, there's really early days. I'm not there yet. But I'll be sharing more about ADHD and the kind of process of me learning who I am and about it on this channel. So if you are interested in hearing more, and if you just relate to what I'm saying, then please subscribe and be a part of this. There will be more information and more videos about ADHD on this channel, so please stick around if you're interested. And I've definitely gone off on a big ramble already, and I can't remember what I've said, which is very typical for me, and I realise is now a part of ADHD. Okay, so what made me suspect? So that's what I was saying. I've always felt a bit different. I've always struggled. I have had anxiety and depression, probably from early teenagehood. I've kind of fluctuated with my mood and with my anxiety. I have always been really interested in, I've always been interested in understanding myself, and honestly I think part of the reason I've chosen the career I've chosen is part of that. So I'm a mental health nurse, if you didn't already know. Previous jobs before being a mental health nurse are all kind of related to childcare. So I've been a nanny, I've been a nursery nurse, I've worked in schools as a teaching assistant, I've worked with individuals who are autistic in schools, I've done a counselling certificate. Like, all of my work has been working with kids, teenagers, and helping people. And I've kind of said, when I decided to become a mental health nurse, I said I wanted to be the person I needed when I was growing up, and that is the reason why I do my job. And I think a part of it is, like the journey I've gone through with getting to the career that I'm in now, like with the counselling certificate, and I did like a level 4 psychology diploma type thing, and then going on to doing the mental health nursing degree. I think part of it was trying to just figure out what was wrong with me. And I've analysed myself so hard. I was making excuses and explanations as to what was going on for me. I have had some kind of trauma in my life and difficulties in that way, so I've analysed the effects that that's had on me. I thought I had all the reasons as to why I was the way that I am, but there was always something that still didn't quite feel right. Like I could explain away the kind of overly emotional, rejection sensitive, like not feeling good enough, like always being triggered in that sense. I could explain that away with kind of like trauma experiences. I learned to explain a lot of stuff away about myself, but it still never felt right until I learned about ADHD. And so I know that there is a lot of conversations about ADHD out there at the moment, specifically on TikTok. I hear a lot about it on TikTok. I have got a TikTok account. I don't use it. I've not seen, if I've seen any ADHD videos from TikTok, it's because they're on Instagram. I'm that generation. I know it's out there, and I know people are considering it trendy, but my God, this is not a trendy, like, if I could choose, I wouldn't have it. Like, this isn't something you want in your life, trust me. But I found out, so I'm a mental health nurse, I have a psychiatrist in my team, I work with teenagers, and currently at the moment I am in an eating disorders team. The psychiatrist in my team, I think it was like March, like early March time, he came up to me and he said that he wanted to review one of my young people, and he wanted to assess her for ADHD. And at the time I was like, what, really? Like, that was my response, like genuine confusion, because I held the stereotype of the naughty boy in my head. And he was like, yeah, and he started listing off all of these reasons as to why he thought she might have ADHD. And then at the end he said it presents differently in boys than in girls. And I was like, in the room I was like, oh right, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, that's, I'll get the forms to them, let's do it. In my head, like, there was like bombs going off, like explosions of, like, he just described me. Everything he said, I was like, what? Anyway, like, on that day I'd carried on with my day, and I think I'd had another 4 or 5 appointments to go to, so going into those appointments, supporting teenagers with eating disorders and their parents, and it's horrific. Like, is a really hard time for that young person and their families. It's horrific. It is probably one of the worst times that they'll go through in life. And I'm sat there very much in the room doing my job to the best of my ability, whilst my brain was just lighting up with all of this information that I'd missed. I'd missed the whole thing about myself. And like, was it the answer? Was it what I'd been looking for? And I couldn't wait to get out of work to go home and start researching and learning more. And I did that, and I started listening to podcasts, I watched YouTube videos, I read things, and very quickly I was very convinced that I had ADHD, and everything was making sense. And I didn't tell anybody initially, because there was I had a lot of fear of being told that I was jumping on the bandwagon, that like, no, that's not what's going on for you, that I thought people would think I was making it up, and there was a fear of being rejected, and that is a big theme in my life. But eventually I told Steve, my husband, and I told my mum, and somebody I know in real life then also announced that she got diagnosed with ADHD, so I spoke to her about it a bit, and she directed me to the I Am Paying Attention Instagram account, and they have a workbook that you can work through, and I did that, and I was more convinced than ever after doing that workbook. Everything about my life was making sense. All the puzzle pieces were completely fitting together. It was like before, if my life was a puzzle, all of the pieces were like slightly out, like didn't quite slot in, just really, if you ran your hand over it, it'd be really bumpy and just jagged and just didn't quite fit. And then suddenly, like, ADHD made all of the puzzle pieces fit and everything was smooth. And that's a really weird, what's the word, is it an analogy? I don't know. It was like suddenly everything made sense. And I remember saying to Steve, like, nothing's really going to change. Like, it doesn't change who I am. I'm still who I am. And at the time I was unsure as to whether I wanted to get a diagnosis. And then one day I was very much just like, no, I need to know. I need to know for definite if this is it. Like, self-diagnosis is really valid. Like, if you think you've got it and that's how you identify, then sure. Like, I don't think anybody who hasn't got it would say that they have it just because it's not nice. Like, but anyway, self-diagnosis is valid. If you're watching this video and you haven't been diagnosed by a psychiatrist and you don't want to be, your experience is valid, that's okay, you're welcome here. I needed somebody else who is professional and knows what they're talking about to sit down with me and tell me that yes, this is what is going on with me. So I booked an appointment with my GP. It was an over the phone appointment, and it was on a Monday, and the weekend before I wrote reams and reams of lists as to why I thought I had ADHD and how it has impacted me my entire life, because it is something that needs to have been there for our childhood as well to kind of be referred and get a diagnosis. And I was so nervous for that phone call. I was so nervous. Like, I prepared. I was ready for battle. Like, I'd heard horror stories of other people speaking to their GP and then being like, no, you've got, you go to work every day, you're fine, you haven't got ADHD, or no, you've got a degree, you haven't got ADHD, or like all these different reasons as to why somebody couldn't have ADHD, or like apparently somebody else got told that ADHD doesn't exist in adults. What? Oh, I was prepared for battle, and I went in ready to not take no for an answer. Like, I was determined, and I didn't need to be. I was very fortunate that my GP basically shut up and just listened. And after I finished talking, she was just like, so yeah, we'll refer you. I didn't need to fight so hard. didn't need to be so worried. But I'm glad I went in prepared. I am glad I went in prepared, because part of my ADHD for me is I really struggle to recall information on the spot when I'm asked a question. Like, that's just one of the ways it impacts me daily. I can, if you ask me a question, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Information's floating around in there somewhere, but will it come out? Nope. So I am glad I did prepare, and I got enough information out for her to agree to refer me. So she said that I had two options. The NHS waiting list, she thought was probably 2 years, but could have been more. And then she said that because there is a wait list, they're also referring out to a private service. So yeah, they were referring out to a private service as well. And she said she wasn't completely sure on what the wait list there would be, and it could still be like 9 months to a year. And I clarified whether if I went that route, would I have to pay for any part of it? And she said no. And I was like, even if I did decide to go onto medication, would I need to pay? She said no. Eventually, like, you would start medication with your psychiatrist, and then eventually your care will be transferred back to us, and I think then I'll have to like pay for prescription, like just normal, but whilst I'm with my psychiatrist I won't have to pay. So I went with that route, and part of the reasoning I'm remembering now, part of my reasoning for that was, obviously it was a slightly shorter, like it could still have been a year, but it was less than 2 years, great. And because I'm a mental health nurse, the adult ADHD team are like, they're run by the same mental health trust that I work for, and it's highly unlikely that I'd bump into them at any point in my day-to-day working life, because I work with teenagers. Like, I'm working in the children and teenager service, not the adult service. But I just thought, like, I didn't want to bump into anybody from uni, and I think most of that worry, or that kind of that shame that I might have felt if I had bumped into somebody, was more around like if I didn't get diagnosed. Like, if I'd gone through the process and they were like, no, you haven't got it, and then I would have felt bad. Like, I don't feel shame around having it. But I remember at the time kind of saying to the GP, like, I don't want to bump into anybody that I know during this process. So that was also part of my reasoning, which I had forgotten about until this moment talking to you about it, and I didn't write about it in my blog. So there, you have a little bit of additional information. So I got referred through to it was Psychiatry UK. There are other private practices in the UK that do ADHD assessments, but my GP referred through to Psychiatry UK, and I think it was about a month, maybe a bit more, after my appointment. So I had to, for my GP, I had to fill in some forms for her to refer me. So I did that, and then about a month, maybe a little bit more after that, I had a few different emails and some text through from Psychiatry UK. And at first I was a little bit like, this looks a bit weird. Like, I kind of thought maybe it's a scam. But then, you know, did some digging, quickly realised it wasn't a scam, and they use a portal. So like, you log into this online space, and there's notes, there's your prescription, there's appointments, like it's all on this online space, and they can write to you through it, and you can write to them. So that got all set up. There was, I think, 10 forms I had to fill out, and there was a couple for an informant to fill out, so Steve filled them in, and there was also some about like physical health. It took me a long time to fill out those forms, and that is also part of how ADHD shows up for me. It is hard to start things. It's hard to start things. I'm gonna leave it at that. I think I got the final form submitted September time, I think it was. Because you could like start it, kind of save it, go back to it. You didn't have to fill them all in all at once. So I think I just kept going back to it every now and then whenever I thought about it. I got them filled in, and then in October I got a phone call to say that they could book my assessment, and I thought, maybe January, February next year, I thought I was being hopeful with that, it's not even been, barely been 4 months since the referral went in, and she said 9 months to a year, so I was being hopeful with February, January time, but then they said November. The next appointment they had was November, and I was like, what? It was November 28th, which was a day I wasn't working, so it worked out really well. And yeah, that was it was a month I had to wait. And it was a really hard month because immediately I started doubting myself. Imposter syndrome is real. Suddenly everything I was so sure about, I was suddenly doubting, and it was really hard to, I guess, keep myself calm and reminding myself that I have ADHD, the psychiatrist will see that. I was scared that I was going to be told that no, I don't have ADHD, I'm just a bit of a fuck up. I think that was the fear. Similar to when I spoke to my GP, my assessment was on a Monday, so I'd spent the weekend kind of mentally preparing, writing stuff down to make sure that I remembered to say it. And so my appointment was 9:30 in the morning, and so as I said, my assessment was a day where I don't work, and normally if I'm not working, if I don't set an alarm, I really struggle to wake up, which is also an ADHD trait or symptom, or whatever you want to call it. It is struggling to wake up in the morning, and I can sleep, if left undisturbed, past 9 o'clock in the morning. I haven't got kids or pets or anything, I can just sleep. So I made sure to set an alarm. The assessment was at 9:30, so I set the alarm for 8:30, and I got up, and almost immediately my phone started ringing, and it was the admin team. And I answered it thinking oh my god, I got the time wrong. Actually my assessment was at 8:30, and I just woke up, didn't even get my cup of tea, was really worried that I'd missed my appointment, or that I'd got the wrong time. But the woman on the phone told me that my appointment had been cancelled because my psychiatrist was ill. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's going to be rebooked. I was like, great, okay. And she's like, actually, it's going to be rebooked for 11:30 today. And I was like, okay, so 11:30. So I did nothing until 11:30, and then logged on, and the psychiatrist that was able to squeeze me in was brilliant. I feel like I've been very lucky throughout every step, and obviously I've got no idea, the psychiatrist that originally had been booked for me, who was off sick, she was probably lovely too. I don't know, I can't say, but the psychiatrist I did get was fantastic. I felt so heard and listened, and he asked really good questions that he covered my lifespan, he covered my mum's pregnancy with me, he asked loads of questions, and I was expecting it. A part of my job as a nurse is assessing people, so things like the pregnancy and early childhood stuff, it can seem irrelevant, but I understand why it is relevant. So I was kind of prepared for those questions, and yeah, the appointment was supposed to be an hour, but it definitely went over. I think I was talking to him for about an hour and a half. It was definitely longer than an hour. And at the end of it, he said that I hit the criteria for ADHD in line with the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it on the screen. It's where all the mental health disorders are listed and the criteria for them. So he diagnosed me with he diagnosed me with ADHD combined types. So there are 3 types of ADHD. There's hyperactivity, inattentiveness, and combined, where you have like hyperactivity and inattentiveness. So I have combined, so I have both of them. And when he confirmed what I have had thought for the last 6 months, however long, numbers and times, it's not my thing. I felt so relieved. I wasn't planning on getting upset in this video. The relief that like washed over me when he said it was I felt relieved. I got my diagnosis by a psychiatrist who knows what he's talking about. I have ADHD and I am not just a fuck up. I finally make sense to me. Like I said earlier, like I've spent the majority of my adult life trying to figure out what's wrong with me, why I'm different to people around me. And now I know. I have ADHD. I'm neurodivergent. I'm not neurotypical. My brain is different, and that makes sense. Everything makes sense. Before my diagnosis, like since my diagnosis, I have very much been in a place of feeling relieved and in a place of acceptance. So I've binged and caught up. I'm now up to date with the podcast ADHD as Females. And if you haven't listened to it and you think you might have ADHD, or you have ADHD, or you are trying to understand ADHD more because someone you love has it, or you're just generally curious, I really encourage you to listen to that podcast because it is fantastic. And on that podcast they talk about like late diagnosis being a roller coaster, and they talk about how you go through a bit of a grief cycle with it. And I'm very much in acceptance at the moment. I can't think of what the other like categories of a grief cycle are. I'll have it up on the screen at some point. I feel like I've definitely been in all of them. I've been so angry about it internally. Like, I don't think anybody would know that I've been angry. But I've been really angry, and I've been really sad, like gut-wrenchingly devastated about my life. I've felt all of the emotions. Like if how ADHD presents in girls, women, adults, non-binary people, it just is understanding it. Like if people knew that ADHD isn't just the naughty boy that can't concentrate that's just like distracting the rest of the class, if people knew that it looked different, and I'd been diagnosed younger, my life could have been so different. It would have been. I've no doubt my life would have been different. I would have understood myself, and like maybe I wouldn't have become a mental health nurse. I had such a passion for art. Maybe I would have gone to art college. Maybe I would have been a tattooist. Maybe I would have traveled the world. Who knows who I could have been, and I've definitely been kind of grieving the what ifs, like what my life could have been. And I've been really sad and I've been angry about what could have been and what was. I've been so frustrated and angry with myself for the years and years of abuse I've given myself over the years about how shit I am as a human. I'm not the kind of person I want to be. Like, I'm not the daughter or the sister or the wife or the friend, the family member. Like, I'm not who I want to be. I'm awful. I'm an awful I'm just rubbish. Like, I would love to be better at relationships. I'd love to be different to what I am now, and I've spent many years being really angry at myself because I'm not who I want to be. And now I'm less angry with myself because I understand that I can't help it. Like, I'm not neurotypical, I'm not this really shit person. I've got ADHD and I can't help it. I've spent a lot of my life feeling a lot of shame and yeah, just I've felt like a really vile person. And it's actually hard to say that out loud, and it's hard to know that's going out onto the internet. Because I don't think many people would know that about me. And, you know, I'm taking off the mask, I guess. I have had really poor self-esteem and no self-compassion for who I am as a human. And now, with the diagnosis, I have some self-compassion. I'm still learning, because it's still hard. But when I do something and I've annoyed myself, or it's not like, it's ADHD. That's what happens in my brain. It's like, oh, that's annoying. It's because of ADHD, you can't help it. And I'm being kinder to myself. And when I think back through like my life, I'm looking at all of those memories through a much more self-compassionate lens, and I feel like I've forgiven myself for a lot of stuff. I feel like I don't hate myself, which is weird. It's a really weird feeling, and I'm definitely rambling. I'm not completely sure where this thought was going. I can't really remember what I have and haven't said. At the end of my assessment, he started saying what could happen next, and I remember him saying something like, you know, counselling, coaching, medication, and I was like, I want medication. I didn't really give him a chance to talk about the counselling and the coaching, which I am interested in. I don't know if I can access that on the NHS or what the wait lists are, but I know that if I have to access it privately, I can't afford that currently. So maybe that will be an investment in myself later on down the line, but right now it's not an option. However, medication is. I have it. It arrived this week, and today is the first day I've taken it. He told me that when you first start taking it, it can feel like 5 espressos. I don't drink coffee. So I mean, I was imagining like a lot. And yeah, I suppose like an hour after taking it, my heart rate it was going. Like, before taking it, my resting heart rate was like 76 beats per minute, and then after it resting, it hit like 110 beats per minute, which is a pretty fair jump when I haven't really done anything, like I was still kind of resting. And he did say that chances are it could make me feel quite anxious, and I have felt that. Like I think along with like that physiological change, like my heart rate getting faster, that makes me feel anxious. Like I don't like that feeling, it makes me anxious. So I've had an increased heart rate, higher anxiety. I felt like I've done a couple of things today and I felt fast, like I felt rushed, even though I haven't been rushed, I felt rushed, like I had to do stuff quickly. And I think that's probably all part of it. Currently sat here talking to you for over 40 minutes. I wasn't expecting this video to be this long. Currently sat here talking to you, I feel okay. I think my heart rate is probably a little bit faster than it would normally be, but then I am talking about an emotive subject and it's all relative, isn't it? I feel okay. I don't feel like I don't really know how quickly it's supposed to kick in terms of how helpful it is. I am on I'm on a starting dose, so it might not do anything for me and my ADHD symptoms. I don't really notice a difference in my brain, like thought processes and that kind of thing. My brain's usually quite whizzy, jumps around a lot. But it is the first day. I'm on a starting dose. It might not be doing very much. I am not going to lose hope. I think I'm going to stop the video. It's like a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I've definitely rambled and I don't know if I've said everything I wanted to say. It's part of having ADHD. I can blame everything on it now. If you would like a little bit more of like comprehensive, maybe, like check out my blog, it'll be linked in the description. I think it's a bit more comprehensive and cohesive. I feel like it makes more sense and it probably flows better. So have a read of that. As I said at the beginning, I will be talking more about ADHD. I'm going to talk more about medication and how it goes. I'll definitely give an update on that. I think I'm definitely planning on doing some more blog posts about the different areas ADHD affects me. So like one on sleep, one on relationships, one on food, one on organisation. I think I'm going to create like a bit of a ADHD series in blog post form, and I might do kind of video equivalents. It's not going to become the main focus of this channel. It will always be very planty focused, but it might be that, you know, when I do repot and chats, it might be that I focus a little bit on an area of ADHD. So I will create a playlist for ADHD related videos. So if you are here, like if this video got pushed out to you because you're looking into ADHD and not because you like plants, then maybe kind of stick around and just keep an eye on the ADHD playlist, and you might find more interesting videos there for you. If you are here because you know me or you've been following along because you like plants and you've watched this video, thank you for watching this video. ADHD is a massive part of my life and it is something that I'm very interested in at the moment. You could probably consider it a bit of a hyper focus, and it's like all I'm thinking about and it's all I want to talk about. So there will be more videos, and I'm sorry if you're not at all interested, but this is the kind of content that I want to talk about. But there will be non-ADHD related videos as well. Rambling again. Okay, we're gonna end. I'm gonna stop the video. I'm gonna stop talking. is cold. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far and you've listened to the rambles, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave some comments if you want to talk about ADHD. I will be in the comments when this video goes up, so I will be responding. Feel free to ask any questions. I'm really happy to be very honest about the whole process, so ask any kind of question you want. I will be as honest as I can be. And subscribe if you haven't already. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry there's been no plants. We'll get more planty videos going again soon. And yeah, thank you. Have I said everything? My brain's definitely, I'm definitely out of sorts. Maybe that is part of the medication. Oh my god, end the video. Just end it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.